Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the Easy English Way. Today, I want to share something very important with you, something that changed my life and the lives of thousands of English learners around the world. Are you ready? Let me tell you a story. Last month, I met a student named Maria. She came to me feeling frustrated. She said, "I study English for 3 years, but I still cannot speak naturally. I know many grammar rules, but when I try to talk, nothing comes out right." Does this sound familiar to you? Maybe you feel the same way sometimes. I asked Maria a simple question. When you watch English videos, do you watch different videos every day? She said yes. When you listen to podcasts, do you listen to new episodes every time? Again, she said yes. That's when I understood her problem. Maria was making the same mistake that millions of English learners make every day. She was trying to learn too many new things at once. She was not using the most powerful tool for learning English. What is this tool? Repetition. Today, I want to tell you why repetition is your best friend when learning English. I will show you how to use it correctly, and I promise you, your English will improve faster than you ever imagined. The Champion's Secret. Let me tell you about Michael Jordan. You know Michael Jordan, right? One of the greatest basketball players in history. Do you think Michael Jordan became amazing by practicing different moves every day? No. He practiced the same basic moves thousands and thousands of times. Every morning, Michael Jordan would go to the basketball court. He would practice the same shooting technique again and again, the same jump shot, the same free throw, the same dribble, day after day, week after week, year after year. Why did he do this? Because Michael Jordan understood something very important. To master anything, you need repetition. You need to do the same thing so many times that it becomes automatic. You don't think about it anymore. Your body just knows what to do. Learning English is exactly the same. You are not just learning a language. You are training your brain. You are building new pathways in your mind. And the only way to build these pathways is through repetition. Think about your native language for a moment. When you speak in your native language, do you think about grammar rules? Do you think about which word comes next? Of course not. You just speak naturally. The words flow out of your mouth like water from a river. Why does this happen? Because you heard the same words, the same sentences, the same patterns thousands of times when you were growing up. Your brain learned these patterns through repetition. Now, we need to do the same thing with English. Here's what I want you to do, and this will change everything for you. I call it the 1-week challenge. It's very simple, but incredibly powerful. Choose one English podcast episode that you like. It should be something interesting for you. Maybe it's about travel. Maybe it's about cooking. Maybe it's about movies. The topic doesn't matter. What matters is that you find it interesting, and you can understand about 70% of it. Now, here's the important part. Listen to this same podcast episode every day for 1 week. Yes, you heard me correctly. The same episode, 7 days in a row. But that's boring, you might say. I will get tired of hearing the same thing over and over. Let me tell you what really happens. On the first day, you understand maybe 70% of the podcast. You miss some words, you don't catch some sentences, but you get the main idea. On the second day, something interesting happens. You start to notice words you missed the first time. You begin to hear sentences more clearly. Your understanding goes up to maybe 75%. By the third day, you're not just listening anymore. You're predicting what comes next. Your brain starts to recognize patterns. You understand about 80% now. On the fourth day, you notice something amazing. You start to remember phrases. Complete sentences stick in your mind. You can almost say some parts along with the speaker. By the fifth day, the language starts to feel familiar. The words flow more naturally in your ears. You understand 85% or more. On the sixth day, you realize you're not just understanding the words. You're feeling the rhythm of English, the stress patterns, the intonation, the natural flow of the language. And on the seventh day, magic happens. You find yourself thinking in some of the phrases you heard. The language has started to become part of you. Let me explain what's happening in your brain during this process. Your subconscious mind is incredibly powerful. It's working 24 hours a day, even when you're sleeping. But your subconscious mind needs repetition to learn. When you hear something just once, your brain says, "This might not be important." But when you hear the same thing multiple times, your brain says, "This must be important. I need to remember this." Your subconscious mind starts to notice patterns. It begins to understand how English works naturally, not through grammar rules, but through experience. Just like a baby learns their first language. Think about how a baby learns to speak. Does the baby study grammar books? Does the baby practice verb conjugations? No. The baby hears the same words and sentences over and over again. Good morning. How are you? I love you. The baby hears these phrases hundreds of times until they become automatic. This is how your brain learns best, through repetition and pattern recognition. Your subconscious mind is like a detective. It's always looking for patterns, always trying to understand how things work. When you listen to the same content repeatedly, you give your subconscious mind the perfect opportunity to discover these patterns. You're not forcing yourself to learn. You're letting your brain do what it does naturally. Here's something fascinating about your brain. Scientists have discovered that our brains are pattern recognition machines. Everything we know, everything we can do, is based on patterns we've learned through repetition. When you drive a car, you don't think about every single action. You don't say to yourself, "Now I put my foot on the brake. Now I turn the steering wheel. Now I check the mirror." It all happens automatically because you've done it so many times. The same thing happens with language. Native English speakers don't think about grammar when they speak. They don't say to themselves, "Now I need to use the present perfect tense." The correct grammar comes out naturally because they've heard it thousands of times. This is what we want to achieve with your English. We want the language to become automatic. We want it to flow naturally without thinking. But here's the problem most English learners face. They try to learn too many new things too quickly. Every day, they watch a different video, listen to a different podcast, read a different article. Their brain never gets the chance to recognize patterns because everything is always new. It's like trying to learn to play the piano by playing a completely different song every day. You might learn a little bit about music, but you'll never master any song. You'll never develop the muscle memory that makes beautiful music possible. Let me tell you about another student, Amir. Amir knew more grammar rules than many English teachers. He could explain the difference between the present perfect and the present perfect continuous. He could tell you when to use who and when to use whom. He had studied every grammar book he could find. But Amir had a problem. When he tried to have a real conversation, he couldn't speak naturally. He would start a sentence, then stop to think about grammar. He would worry about making mistakes. He spoke very slowly and awkwardly. Why did this happen? Because Amir was thinking too much about grammar rules. In a real conversation, you don't have time to think about rules. Native speakers talk quickly and naturally. If you stop to think about grammar, you can't keep up. Here's the truth about grammar. You don't learn grammar by studying rules. You learn grammar by listening to correct English over and over again. Your brain naturally understands how the language works. Children don't study grammar rules, but they speak correctly. How do they do this? Through repetition. They hear correct English thousands of times, and their brain learns the patterns. When you use the repetition method I'm teaching you, something wonderful happens. You start to feel what's correct and what's wrong. You don't know the grammar rule, but you know the sentence doesn't sound right. This is called language intuition, and it's much more powerful than memorizing rules. Native speakers use language intuition all the time. They can't always explain why something is correct, but they know it feels right. Now let me tell you what happens when you use this repetition method consistently for 6 months. This is where the real magic begins. After 6 months of repeated listening to content you mostly understand, your brain has collected thousands of English patterns. These patterns are now stored in your subconscious mind. You don't even realize they're there, but they're working for you every day. When you want to express an idea, the right words and phrases start to come to you automatically. You don't have to search for them. You don't have to translate from your native language. The English comes directly from your subconscious mind. You start to speak more fluently because you're not creating sentences from scratch. You're using patterns you've heard many times before. It's like having a huge library of English phrases in your mind that you can access instantly. Your pronunciation improves naturally because you've heard the correct pronunciation thousands of times. Your ear becomes trained to hear English sounds clearly, and your mouth learns to make these sounds correctly. Your listening comprehension becomes much better because your brain recognizes the patterns quickly. When someone speaks English, your brain immediately starts to predict what they might say next based on the patterns you know. Most importantly, you start to think in English. This is the ultimate goal for any English learner. When you think in English, speaking becomes natural and effortless. But how do I choose the right content to repeat, you might ask? This is a very important question. The content you choose can make the difference between success and failure. First, choose something that interests you. If you love cooking, find a cooking podcast. If you enjoy travel stories, find travel content. If you're interested in science, find science videos. When you're interested in the topic, repetition doesn't feel boring. Second, choose content at the right level. You should understand about 70% of what you hear. If you understand everything, it's too easy and won't help you improve. If you understand less than 50%, it's too difficult and will frustrate you. Third, choose content with clear, natural speech. Avoid content where people speak too fast or use too much slang. Look for educational content, interviews, or stories told in a clear, natural way. Fourth, choose content that's not too long. A 10-15-minute podcast episode is perfect. If it's too long, you might get tired of listening to it every day. Finally, choose content that you can easily access. Make sure you can listen to it on your phone, your computer, or wherever you like to study. The easier it is to access, the more likely you are to stick with the repetition schedule. The key to success with repetition is making it a habit. You need to listen to your chosen content every day, at the same time, in the same way. This creates a routine that your brain can follow automatically. I suggest choosing a specific time each day for your repetition practice. Maybe it's during your morning coffee. Maybe it's on your way to work. Maybe it's before bed. The important thing is to be consistent. Don't worry if you miss a day sometimes. Life happens, and that's okay. Just get back to your routine as soon as possible. The important thing is to maintain the habit over time. Also, don't try to do too much at once. One podcast episode per week is enough. If you try to repeat too much content, you won't give your brain enough time to absorb the patterns. Remember, learning English through repetition is a natural process. You're not forcing your brain to learn. You're creating the conditions where learning happens naturally. Don't worry about understanding every single word. Don't stop to look up words in the dictionary. Just listen and let your brain do the work. Your subconscious mind will figure out the meaning from context. Don't worry about making mistakes when you try to use what you've learned. Mistakes are part of the learning process. Every mistake teaches your brain something new. Don't expect immediate results. Language learning is like planting a tree. You plant the seed, you water it every day, and then you wait. The growth happens slowly and naturally, but when it happens, it's permanent. So, my friend, are you ready to try this method? Are you ready to use the power of repetition to transform your English? Remember the story of Maria that I told you at the beginning? 3 months after she started using the repetition method, she sent me a message. She said, "I can't believe it. Yesterday I had a 30-minute conversation in English and I didn't think about grammar even once. The words just came out naturally." This can be your story too. All you need to do is choose one piece of English content that you find interesting and can mostly understand. Listen to it every day for 1 week. Then choose another piece of content and repeat the process. Do this consistently for 6 months, and I promise you, your English will transform. You'll speak more fluently, understand more clearly, and feel more confident. The language will start to feel natural, like it's becoming part of who you are. Remember, you're not just learning English. You're training your brain. You're building new pathways in your mind. And like any training, it requires patience, consistency, and repetition. The champions of every sport know this secret. The masters of every skill understand this truth. Repetition is the mother of all learning. It's your secret weapon for mastering English. So go ahead, start today. Choose your content, make your plan, and begin your journey. Your future English-speaking self is waiting for you. Thank you for joining me today. I believe in you, and I know you can do this. Until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep repeating. Good luck, my friend.